In the 1800s, one family dominated the beer industry in St. Louis, Missouri. The Lemp family grew up in a German neighborhood in the early 19th century. They used their cultural knowledge to brew a special recipe that would make them a fortune. But their dynasty of death began when they moved into a mansion. Let's look at how this happened in today's episode of the most haunted places in America. On October 24th, 1840, two brothers, Adam and Henry Lemp, along with their mother Elizabeth, traveled from Germany to St. Louis, Missouri. At the time, there were few jobs in construction, and many people who had come from Europe were working odd jobs for low pay. Adam was 16 years old and his brother was only 9. When they arrived, they went to live with some relatives while they looked for work. Henry worked in a saloon as a dishwasher and saved money until he could open his own place. He met another German immigrant named Eberhard Anheuser, and together they opened a small saloon at 1306 Lafayette Square in 1852. It was called Anheuser and Lemp Brewing Company. Soon after, Henry's brother, Adam, came to work with them. Business was good. In 1860, Henry married a woman named Catherine. The couple had 7 children together. They lived in a small house on the outskirts of town. Their next-door neighbor was Eberhard and his wife, Sophie. His son, Eberhard Jr., became like a second son to Henry, even though he was technically his cousin. Henry took him under his wing and trained him in the business. In 1876, Henry died from complications related to diabetes. He left his share of the business to his son, Charles, who ran it with his uncle Adam. 5 years later, Adam also the aide leaving the company to Charles. Charles continued to grow the business, and by the turn of the century, they were brewing over 1 million barrels of beer each year. This made them the largest brewery in the nation. Charles owned several buildings in the city, but he wanted a grand home, so he hired architect Edward C. Bohm to design for him a 72-room Italianate-style mansion. Construction began in 1891, and it cost Charles $1 million to complete, or modern-day equivalent of about $33 million. It was considered to be the finest residence in all of St. Louis. The brick home boasted ornate details both inside and out, including Juliet balconies, stained glass windows, and stone relief work. Each room was decorated differently with its own theme. There was an Indian room, an Egyptian room, and even a grotto in the basement. He also had a bowling alley, a gymnasium, and a ballroom. There was even a dumbwaiter to bring drinks from the basement up to the dining room without the need for servants. But while the home was extravagant, there were rumors that it was haunted before Charles even moved in. Before construction began, a group of African-American workers found a skeleton while digging the foundation. They say it was in the shape of a man and he appeared to have been shot. To get rid of the bad luck, they threw the bones in the nearby river. Charles did not believe in ghosts, so he moved right in with his wife Mary and their 4 daughters. The first person to die in the house was Charles's daughter Marie. She suffered from a rare disease called acute colitis. After surgery, she developed a severe infection and died at the age of 25. She was buried in the family plot in Bellefontaine Cemetery. Her death was the first of many in the family. Just 4 years later, Charles died from complications of diabetes. He had left his estate to his son, Adam, who had struggled with depression since he was a young man. Now that he was rich, he was able to seek treatment, but it didn't help much. Adam committed suicide by drinking a bottle of hydrochloric acid. He survived the attempt and was able to speak, but he was horribly disfigured and spent the rest of his life alone in a sanitarium. After Adam's death, the house passed to his sister, Elizabeth. She had suffered from mental illness her entire life. Now that she was alone and inherited the family curse, her condition worsened. She died by throwing herself out of a window. 2 more sisters died, one from stomach cancer and the other from a cerebral hemorrhage. In 1949, Elizabeth's daughter, Elsie, and her husband, Paul, were the last remaining heirs. They agreed to put the house up for rent if they could keep some of the furniture and art. But after 3 families moved in, they all reported strange occurrences and moved out quickly. The couple then decided to demolish the home. An old black woman who was cleaning out the attic warned them that the spirits were trapped in the house and moving it would disturb them. But they ignored her warning. As they prepared to tear down the house, workers started finding bones. At first, They thought they were animal bones, but soon realized they belonged to humans. They found the remains of at least 15 people in the attic, including those of Charles' daughter, Marie. They also found a box filled with women's clothing that dated back to the 1890s. Whoever had died in the attic had been burned and their ashes remained in the walls. The police were called in, but no foul play was suspected. All of the bones were reinterred in the family plot. But construction never started. The lot sat vacant for years, as locals referred to it as the Widow's Walk. People reported seeing ghosts around, the sight and hearing the sounds of screams and gunshots during the night. Eventually, paranormal investigators began holding ghost tours of the property. In 1998, the house was purchased by a local businessman who wished to restore it. With the help of the St. Louis Preservation Board, he raised $1 million to renovate the mansion. The restoration took 5 years and cost $4 million, or the modern-day equivalent of about $5.5 million. It was finally opened to the public as a private history museum. But once again, there were reports of strange occurrences. Visitors and staff claimed that they saw ghosts walking the halls and standing at the windows. Some said they felt cold spots throughout the house, and at night, they heard screaming and footsteps above the sound of their own voices. A local author wrote, "You can feel the despair and sadness of the lost souls that linger here. I have personally experienced unexplainable things in the halls and rooms." While visiting, many people captured photos with their cameras. When the film was developed, there were orbs that appeared in the pictures. The staff believed that these were spirits that walked among them. One day, a man was taking pictures in the basement grotto when he heard chains dragging metal moans. Then he saw the apparition of a man dragging himself closer and closer. Startled, he dropped his camera and backed away. He looked back to see if the figure was still there, but it was gone. There are also rumors that the grounds surrounding the mansion are haunted as well. One day a groundskeeper was mowing the lawn when his equipment broke down. He exited the machine and felt something brush against his leg. When he turned to look, he saw what he described as a mist that appeared to have a face in it. It stared directly at him for a moment before it faded away. In addition to the face in the mist, there have been sightings of little girls in Victorian nightgowns running across the yard and disappearing. Some say that the girls are the Lemp daughters who played here as children and are now stuck reliving their final moments of happiness. Others say that the girls are victims of a tragedy that occurred long ago. In the 1860s, there was a cholera epidemic in St. Louis. Thousands of people died, including many of the Lemp family's friends and neighbors. Children were taken from their homes in the middle of the night and dumped into mass graves. Some believe that these were the Lemp daughters, and their spirits are drawn to the mansion where their parents died. Those who have investigated the property believe that the entire family is bound to the house. They say that Charles's greed led to his demise and that of his children. They left their earthly bodies behind and are doomed to walk the earth for eternity. Do you think the Lemp family is cursed? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I've been your host. Join us next time for more stories of the most haunted places in America.